Thank you very much for having me to speak today, and well done for making it to the end. Almost. You're just about there. So a little bit about me. My name is Jenny. I am a music therapist, as Anne-Marie said, with Nordoff Robbins. I work across Edinburgh and previously in Fife as well. And my main clinical areas are learning disability and autism. I've worked in palliative care for a bit as well. And I'm really excited to share some of our work in this area of neurorehabilitation with you this afternoon. So, what we will be looking at is, I'll give you an overview of what music therapy is, because I appreciate not everybody might have heard of it before. I'll tell you a bit about Nordoff Robbins in general. And then we've got some case studies. So we'll be sharing some clips from clinical work and also from interviews. And that will hopefully give you a picture of what music therapy can look like in practice. So we'll start with what is music therapy. So we've got a definition here, which is from Leslie Bunt, an eminent music therapist. Music therapy is the use of sounds and music within an evolving relationship between client and therapist to support and encourage physical, mental, social and emotional well-being. We are an HCPC regulated profession, and it requires a 2-year master's training to register as a music therapist. Currently, there are 8 music therapy training courses in the UK. We're an allied health profession. We come under the arts therapies banner, and we work with a really wide variety of client demographics across the whole lifespan as well. Personally, my youngest client has been 18 months old and my oldest has been 90, so quite wide range there. And we work on both a one-to-one level and then small groups up to large groups as well. The focus is always on the relationship between the client and therapist and how we can use music within that relationship. Nordoff Robbins is both the name of a particular approach to music therapy and also an organisation. So the approach was founded by the American pianist Nordoff Robbins, Paul Nordoff, and an English special education teacher, Clive Robbins, back in the 50s. And they were working together in a school setting with children. The work has since been applied to a wider range of demographics. The core belief of the Nordoff Robbins approach is that everybody can respond to music no matter how ill or disabled they might be. And this comes from the idea that our very earliest communication between infant and caregiver is based around musical features. When we think of a mother speaking to a baby, we think of like gaga, gaga, and that's got pitch, and that's got rhythm, and it's got tone and form. So we all innately have this capacity to respond to music. We focus on active music making with our clients. We make music with them, not for them. So it's a very interactive approach. Both client and therapist are involved in the music making in music therapy. And it's also often called music-centred as a result of that. We believe that the clinical aims can be worked towards through the music itself. We don't need to analyse it outside of the music or anything like that in order to have positive effect on the client's life. So Nordoff Robbins, the organisation, we've got specific training courses in various countries around the world. In the UK, our organisation is the largest music therapy charity, working all the way across the country. We're the largest provider after the NHS as well. And our services are in schools, hospitals, rehab centres, care homes, all sorts of places. And we have clients that come to us as well, to our dedicated centres. We've got in a few different cities around the UK. So our approach is a very practical one. As I say, the music therapist is participating actively in the session, and we're always looking for what the client can do, meeting them where they're at, tapping into their interests and seeing what we can do with that. It's a very person-centred approach, and no 2 sessions are ever the same. So what does music therapy look like in practice? Well, we would have blocks of sessions, usually about 8 to 12 sessions is typical, and that will potentially be ongoing series of blocks. So some clients might come for just one block, some clients might come for years. It's always at a regular time and place, much the same as any other sort of psychotherapy style intervention. As we've said already, it can be an individual or a group, and it's always a private, confidential space. We set clinical aims at the start of our working with a client, and I'll talk a little bit more shortly about what those clinical aims might be. These are regularly reviewed, it's not a static thing. And we use a whole range of musical instruments. These can be both traditional instruments, we might be using, pianos, guitars, ukuleles, percussion. We also might use technology and adapted instruments as well. Just whatever we need to enable a particular client and meet them where they're at and help them to join in with music making. We use a lot of improvisation, particularly in the music-centred Nordoff Robbins approach. Improvisation is one of our main means of making music with people, but we might also use structured musical activities or games, singing, songwriting or composing, or occasionally music listening as well. But generally speaking, a very actively involved approach. And it is usually taking place in person, but as we all learned through the pandemic, online working can be effective too. And you can see a lovely clip here of therapist Janet working with a young lad called Thomas in hospital. So I'm now presenting you with a quote from the Nordoff Robbins website from our page on music therapy and neurological conditions. So it says here, experiencing a sudden or unexpected neurological injury or trauma can be devastating and life-altering and bring with it many physical and emotional challenges. Nordoff Robbins music therapy can support people on a journey of adjustment and rehabilitation. Our therapists often work alongside a broader team of professionals and support physical, psychological and emotional progress through music therapy. There are quite a lot of different things that we would be aiming towards in music therapy. I mentioned before we'll talk a bit more about clinical aims, so let's think about that. Our music-centred approach means our therapists sensitively work with and respond to what a person can do, whatever the effects of the trauma, by listening to their movement, breathing and vocal sounds, even if speech has been hindered or lost. We recognise the importance of focusing on the creativity which people are capable of, keeping them motivated and engaged through music. Our therapists help with cognitive and physical rehabilitation and the relearning of key skills while providing the space and opportunity for communication and expression. So, as I say, there's lots of different things that we would be aiming towards to work for in music therapy. But generally speaking, we're always looking for transferable aims. So we're not really thinking about musical goals as such. We're thinking more about initiating and cognitive responses. We're thinking about the organisation of thoughts, sequencing. We're thinking about flexibility. We're thinking about staying attentive and focused on a task as well, capacity to control emotions. An opportunity for control and leadership can come about through musical play as well, and range of creative expression as well. So lots of different things. It'll always be bespoke to the individual, what we've learned about them from, not just them and meeting them, but also from their wider care team and family, and what is most appropriate for them. So I have a few different case studies to show you as well. We're often told in music therapy that nothing really explains the work as well as seeing it in practice. So I really hope that seeing these clips will give you insight into what can happen in music therapy. It's a very broad field of work, however, and these are just a few examples that I can show you in this short time that we have together. There's loads more online on the Nordoff Robbins YouTube channel and website if you do fancy seeing some more examples of music therapy in practice. But I hope that will give you a brief insight into the benefit and positive outcomes that can be achieved through music therapy. So the first clip I've got to show you is of a young woman called Charlotte, and you're going to see Charlotte a few times. In this clip, she's being interviewed by her... I didn't mean that to start already. Her music therapist, Luke. Charlotte's worked with 2 different therapists, so you'll see her other therapists later on. So we're going to be interspersing some clips of Charlotte being interviewed with some clips from other clients in their actual music therapy sessions. So Charlotte, she was a young woman who had a brain injury and had music therapy as part of her rehabilitation journey, initially when she was in hospital. At the end, you'll also hear a song that Charlotte wrote. So hopefully this video will play for us.
My name's Charlotte. I'm currently
Our volume's a wee bit low,
which is a brain injury rehabilitation centre in Leeds. I've been there since about April this year, and before that I was in hospital. I initially went into hospital in December, just feeling really unwell, and when I got there initially the doctors weren't sure what was wrong with me, but after some tests they discovered that I had something called meningoencephalitis. That's basically an infection in the brain, and mine was caused by the shingles virus. So I was really unwell with it, and
how did it affect you?
So initially it was my communication, so that was sort of involving my processing skills to understand what people were saying to me and be able to respond. My processing was a lot slower as well, so that meant that in conversations I found it hard to focus and to know what was going on in a conversation, and on top of that it also physically affected me. So I had an increase in my tremor, and I wasn't able to walk or even transfer independently from the bed to the wheelchair. I needed assistance.
And how was music therapy introduced to hospital?
So I sort of went to hospital and they told me that they had this fantastic music therapist called Alan, and that I should give it a go and it'd be something different to do, alongside sort of my physical therapy and my occupational therapy. I was really hesitant to begin with to try it, just because I don't play an instrument and I didn't really know what I could bring to a session, and I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it'd be really based on me doing some sort of performance once I got there with Alan, and so I was quite apprehensive about it. But I decided to go along and give it a go, but I didn't really have that high expectations of it.
And you said that, did you say that before you made you notice that music had sort of become absent?
Yeah, so really I'd been interested in music forever. I used to dance, and so it was really musical then. I was in things like operatic shows, Operatic Society, and we did Christmas shows, so I enjoyed doing that and singing. And just in general, you don't really realise how much music is around you until it's suddenly not anymore. So just listening to music in the morning, on the radio, singing in the shower like everybody does, and going to gigs and festivals. So I was really into music, more than I'd even realised. And then once I had this illness, I found, because of things like my processing and the way it would make me have sort of sensory overloads, I kind of indirectly avoided music. So I was no longer experiencing music without even realising it for quite a sustained period of time. And it wasn't until I started doing music therapy that I realised it had been absent in my life. And really that was a part of me that had just stopped.
Quite moving words from Charlotte there, I think, about the role of music in her identity. And one thing that I think Charlotte found out is that music therapy doesn't require you to be a performing musician or anything like that going into it. Music therapy is for anyone, doesn't require any musical experience. And while some musical things might sometimes come about as a result of music therapy, it's not the focus of the therapy at all. We'll hear more from Charlotte in a couple of slides' time. But first, I have a clip from some clinical work to show you. So this is some work by a therapist called Rich, who you can see on the leftmost side of the screen there. We're going to see an example of Rich improvising with two gentlemen. So you can see Mark is on the left-hand side of the screen there with the darker hair. Mark is in his mid-30s, and then we've got Simon, who's in his early 50s on the opposite side of the couch there. So Mark on the left, he has 3 children under the age of 10, and he was a successful businessman. He was involved in a car crash which led to a brain injury with severe aphasia. The only language he retained was his own name and a couple of swear words. He was 4 years on from his injury at this point of working with Rich. In his first session with Rich, he cried and wrote down that they were happy tears. He expressed that he had very limited opportunity to experience any flow of interaction with other people. All participation was very stilted and slow for him, single words, miming, pointing. Simon, on the opposite side, has a young child and a wife as well. He was a local business owner who had a stroke 6 months before this clip was taken. And similar to Mark, he had severe aphasia and had no language. And he had an emerging awareness of his injury, but still wasn't really clear on what had happened to him. So Mark and Simon had each been having individual sessions, but this clip is from the first time that they had music therapy together. And this was initiated by Mark, indicating that he wanted to join Simon in his sessions. This particular clip is from about 5 minutes into that first session. What you'll hear is Rich on the guitar starting some music, and he's going to be singing non-verbally in a style that you will hear is quite similar to Mark's voice when he joins in after a few moments. So let's watch that clip. So I think the main thing for me watching this clip is thinking about Richard's flexibility, totally in the moment and going with wherever Mark and Simon lead him. And just the flow, the freedom and the humour of the interaction. The fact that neither of these men have language doesn't impede that interaction or the flow of the music. They're so playful, so humorous. Rich said that he felt this brought about a sense of solidarity between the men in the group, and that they began to socialise together a lot more after this session. And Mark in particular was much more motivated to engage in his rehabilitation. So hopefully we can see that the impact of what happened at the session can ripple outside of the session as well. While there's lots of joy and fun in the moment, it's not just about that. So let's hear from Charlotte again.
In the sessions with Alan, how did it begin?
So I sort of turned up and said, I don't really know what you want from me, but I'll give it a go. And we just got chatting really about what sort of music we both liked, and we both sort of bonded over musicals. It was when The Greatest Showman, I think, had recently come out. So that was something that I'd watched while I was in hospital. So he just started playing one of the songs from The Greatest Showman, which was quite uplifting, and I just started singing along with him. And I found that as I was singing, I could fluently sing more than I could speak, which felt amazing. It felt amazing to just freely sing and the words be coming out without me even thinking about them. Whereas in day-to-day conversation, I really had to concentrate on making those words come out that I wanted. And they were affected by stutter quite severely as well initially. So it was just great to sing and it not be taxing at all.
I can imagine it must have felt really exciting for Charlotte to discover that she could sing more fluently than she could speak, as she's saying there. There's a lot of research out there showing that music is processed all over the brain, lots of different regions, and also that words are processed differently by the brain when it's in the context of being part of a song and part of lyrics compared to how it's processed for speech. So it's likely that this has a part to play in why many people, like Charlotte, find that they can sing before they can speak when recovering after a brain injury. So our next video clip, which I'm not sure what volume it will be at in comparison to that one, so brace yourself, is a clip which features some examples of the clinical work and also introductions and description from the music therapist Lucy and a care staff member at the rehabilitation unit. So I'll let them introduce the work for you. This is Matt.
The benefits of having music therapy by Nordoff Robbins at Tiab Dalin is just brought so much joy to everybody in the unit. And we always look forward to Thursdays with Lucy.
So about a year into us working together, Matt used his voice for the first time. Matt doesn't use his voice the rest of the week, yet here he was asking to be heard. So I continued to work to incorporate his quite short, gravelly vocalisations into our music, encouraging him to use it more and more, and by doing this together in music, creating meaning and conversation. And the amount of effort he puts in, I think, shows how much he wants to use his voice, and we've continued to celebrate this together in his music therapy.
Music therapy has helped massively during the pandemic. It has given him a platform to be able to still express himself in a creative and fun way. It helps him in many ways, physically, cognitively, emotionally. It has helped him focus, also be aware of others, especially in a group setting, and has also helped him with his patience and turn taking. I think it just really opened our eyes to how much more to music therapy there is. It's not just about banging a drum. There's so much more to it, and I think everybody here is like so pro music therapy now. Yeah, it's wonderful, you know. It brings so much to people's lives.
So Matt, he acquired his brain injury in a motorbike accident, which also caused multiple physical injuries. Music therapy was part of his wider rehabilitation that he was accessing at the unit. And I hope, as you've seen in this video, music therapy seems to be a way to let him communicate in a different way. It gives him a chance to be in the charge and to take control. And I think for him that's very significant in the context of his wider life as well. It's a different way for him to express his personality and to explore different avenues of communication. So, we have another clip from some clinical work to show you. Hopefully this won't play when I... Okay, we're all good. So this is Rich again, who you've seen previously. He is working now with a young lad called Liam, who is 22 at the time of the clip. We've seen improvisation in play with the previous two clips of music therapy in action, which is really in the moment, but as I said, we always hope that the work ripples out into the wider life, and here we're going to see an example of that through songwriting. We often use songwriting in music therapy, and the focus is always on enabling it to be the client's song. It's their song and it belongs to them. And we'll see an example of a song that this lad Liam wrote. So Liam was in with the wrong crowd as such, and he got involved in a road traffic accident on a stolen motorbike about 6 months before this clip. His road to recovery included learning to walk again, controlling his emotional fluctuations, and support his motivation to engage in rehab, as he was often very low in mood and not really up for it. They began working, Liam and Rich, together on writing songs about his recovery in the contemporary pop style that Liam was a fan of. We're going to see some clips not from within Liam's sessions, but from a jam night at the rehab centre, where there were some local musicians performing, friends, family and staff were gathering for a bit of a social event, and that event was focusing on what people can do rather than what they can't do. And Liam performed his original song here at the end of the night, and Rich made this video afterwards for him, which was collaborative with his physios and his occupational therapists, showing Liam's road to recovery through his illness. It's a bit of a rocky montage. There's quite literally some boxing in it, as you'll see in a moment. So we'll show you this clip. I'm still finding, think I could survive. I made it through the pain. I'm still scared I can do it again. Survive. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling happy all of the time because I'm still alive. Because I'm still alive. Because I'm still alive. a lot of applause. I'm told everyone was moved to tears after Liam's performance. And this is a lad who wasn't into music before his accident. It's an example of a new identity forming and focus on something new rather than just regaining what's been lost, growth rather than regrowth. So I realised that we're approaching the time that this was supposed to finish. I do have 2 more clips which total about 5 minutes. Is that okay to go a few minutes over? Yeah. I won't be offended if anyone leaves, it's fine. So we've got 1 more clip of Charlotte's interview and then finally Charlotte's song to finish off. So I'll just dive in. Here is Charlotte speaking about her experience of writing the song.
So we're going to show us a recording of a song you did with Alan, aren't we?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about how that came to be?
It was something that Alan had suggested. He'd written songs with other patients in the hospital before. Now, when I was doing music therapy in hospital, because of what I'd been through, I really found it difficult to talk about the experience. But there was a need to talk about it. It was all sort of bottled up and I needed to be able to talk about it or express it in some way. But trying to speak about it, I just find I always broke down and started crying and didn't really get anywhere with it. So we decided to sort of write a song about my experience. And it happened over a number of weeks. And the beginning of the song was how I was feeling initially. And I called it Change because it actually is me showing the change I went through while in hospital. And I think I became more positive through writing the song and through starting to recover and through music therapy. And so it documents that, and it was really valuable for me because it meant I could speak about this experience through the song. But also I sort of felt distance from it because it's a song and it's something creative. So I was able to process it without getting overly emotional.
It's like that thing about, it's kind of similar to the group, isn't it? That it's a space in which you can have that emotional time and then it has its ending and it's manageable.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and we're going to see the clip now, so thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
It's always great to hear directly from clients and their experience, particularly when it's somebody as eloquent as Charlotte is about it. So let's see that song that Charlotte wrote with her other music therapist that she saw before Luke, Alan. Here we go.
Another rainy day outside. I don't know what to say. Keep smiling when everybody asks if you're okay. What are you meant to say? What are you meant to say? Nothing different, nothing changing. Every day is just the same. Just keep moving, just keep proving, just to see going, getting stronger day by day. Looking forward, feeling hopeful. There's a change coming my way.
Very moving words within Charlotte's song, I think. And I like to imagine as well, this recording took place within a hospital ward, thinking about the sounds that you usually hear on a hospital ward. Imagine being in the next room and hearing something like that coming. Wow. So again, that effect rippling beyond that of the room. That was our last clip from today. So you've got my contact details there if I can help with any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll pass back to Maria.
Oh, Jenny, thank you.